9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Project Egg Show. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with Sarah Benken. How you doing today, Sarah?
Hi, I'm doing well. How about you?
Awesome. Oh, I'm doing fantastic, and I'm so grateful you could come on the show. And I have to ask, what's your story?
Oh, okay, my story is I am a serial entrepreneur, business owner of 10 plus years. I am a mom. I am a partner. I am a lover of women, and I really am focused today on helping other female entrepreneurs and leaders rise. That's my story.
So how did you come to this place? What was the journey? How'd you get here?
So I've always had a passion for women and working with women. My original company is a concierge company. Like I said, 10 years ago, I started that. We've employed mostly women. We are, I'm a girl's girl. I love servicing. Most of our clients have always been women. And about 2 years ago, less than 2 years, about a year and a half ago, I moved to Phoenix, Arizona 4 years ago. And about 2.5 years into that journey, I said, you know what? There are a lot of really amazing women, business women in my city of Phoenix, Arizona. We have to find a way to bring them together. And we did that through my newest venture, the No Book and Tribe. And honestly, how I got to the journey was moving to a city, not knowing anyone, realizing that I needed to find my tribe. I needed to find my girls, my colleagues, my clients, my sisters, I didn't even couldn't even properly find Trader Joe's for a while. So I needed to find out what my city was all about. So I immersed myself into my community, attending every kind of networking event I could find, collaborating with as many women as possible. And then through it all, realizing that, wow, we have some really cool women here. And from that, also, like I said, my other company, which is a concierge company, I grew it into a national offering, and was sort of in this place where we had sold 2 of our locations. It's a national company, so we sold 2 of our locations, and I had a little bit of time, and there was just this, the universe opened up, and we started the No Book and Tribe.
That's awesome. So you mentioned how you want to help women rise. Why is that word particularly important to you? Why did you choose that terminology?
So our mantra is lift and rise. And we are working with a very specific type of woman. We believe in collaboration of all, but the type of women that we're working with are women who are high powered, they're high level, they're super dynamic. They're a lot of times working behind the scenes, focusing on running their business. And the goal of the Lift and Rise movement is really to come together, because we know that when we come together and collaborate, a lot of goodness can happen, and we know together we rise. So we want to lift each other and rise together. And rise can be rising in your business, rising in your creating and fostering better relationships with people, specifically our sisterhood that we've created, empowering each other. So I just recently posted empowered women empower women, and it's true, right? So we just want to create this amazing synergy around the fempreneur, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I am absolutely sure that I don't fully understand to the extent that I could. Um, and it kind of brings to my mind, like, I definitely think that the especially the United States has been, kind of been going on like with an arm and a leg tied behind our back, because for a very very long time, um, I mean, forever almost. It seems like, there have not everybody in the country has like been given the ability to like perform in the same way. So like, you know, y- you're like holding yourself back in a way, right? And so I'm curious to learn, throughout the history of the world and in the United States specifically, like, um, what sort of changes do you think are some of the most important ones that we need to make, and where do you really see um, see this heading, and see your whole movement going towards?
So, so it's really interesting that that you're bringing this up, because this is really at the forefront of our minds. What we've done is we've really essentially, in the last year and a half or so, we've collected about 2,000 women across the United States and Canada, and we actually have a tangible book that we put together. And the book is to bring more women to the table and spotlight their initiatives. Some of the women who are behind the scenes and who are really truly making a difference in our communities. And as we go on and on and on with this, the lift and rise, and what does that mean for women? And now we're creating a movement, like you said, again, across the United States and Canada, and just in less than 2 years being about 2,000 strong. What does that look like? Because now things, and they always did, but now things really are meaningful. So some of the things that we're focused on is, we always say collaboration. Our guiding principles are collection, collaboration, and community. We want to empower women to know that it's okay to collaborate with each other. We don't have to compete against each other. So that's the very first thing. We have a principle in our No Book and Tribe that says no mean girls allowed. Like we don't stand for it. We connect with each other in such a beautiful way that our goal is to promote one another. The other thing that we're looking for outwardly is how do we build clout together and link arms so that we can receive equality, right? So as women as a whole, what are some of the things that we can do to impact change within our society, to impact the mindset of, you know what, we deserve equal pay, and you know what, we deserve a march, and we should really be able to voice that, right? And sadly, we have to do that by linking arms. It's not something that's just given to us. So the other thing that we're really focused on is building community, both locally and globally. So I talk a lot now about what does that look like? What does this linking arms, this rise thing look like? How do you really rise? How do you lift? How do you build this clout, if you will? And so we're looking at some serious nonprofit relationships and partnerships. I mean, I think it would be wonderful for us as women to come together, to collaborate, use our strengths and our tools to make a difference. And what that looks like could be anything from locally supporting another women's group. It could be raising funds for some of these grassroots nonprofit agencies. We have rolled out a whole program called No Cares, and that's where we're collaborating and partnering with 4 grassroots small women supporting women nonprofits, bringing awareness, collecting and fundraising for them, just giving them exposure through some of our events that we have, and then taking that up, nationally and even internationally. So we're really at the beginning of that, but it is at the forefront of our minds. So we're excited about, like, what does this movement look like? How are we more than just a book and just a group of women? What can we do to bring that equality to women?
I love that. And I'm curious, and I think about this all the time, and it's something where, I have my beliefs, and then I'm constantly challenging them. And I have kind of gone back and forth here, but I truly believe that we are in control of our own destiny.
Mhm.
I absolutely believe that life happens for us, not to us. And I believe that regardless of where we start, it is our responsibility to figure out and to get creative and to take control of where we end up. So there's that side, right? But then there's this other very, very real side of of discrimination. And I'm also Jewish, and so
Mhm.
people just hate me just because I'm Jewish.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like saying like, okay, well, we haven't been given a fair shot, and but then also having the belief of, but we have to take our destiny into our own hands. Like, to me, there's like a very fine line there, that it's like there is some line that I probably don't fully understand yet, and have to do more discovery. But I'm
Right.
curious to know, like, what do you think about that, like, of these kind of two forces here?
I love that you say that because I bounce back and forth all the time on this, right? So we're in America, right? The American dream. We can be anything you want to be. Anything is possible. Is that really true? I don't know. I will tell you that we do have a responsibility to do the best that we can. That we do have certain opportunities, and we have to really focus on seizing the moments when they're given to us. But I will also say, on the flip side, I was just on a panel for a craft brewing association. They have, niche markets everywhere. And they did a women's panel, and I sat on it. And one of the ladies, who is a sales rep for a very small brewery here, she said, what do I do when I like walk into these bars to sell my beer? What do I do when they don't want to talk to me? The good old boy system still exists. It does. And we would be silly if we overlook that and we don't see it, right? So, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to link arms with really amazing women that have really trudged the journey, who have prevailed and overcome a lot of those odds in dealing with male dominated industries. And maybe they're first year college students, or maybe they're $50 million beauty founders or whatever. And we're trying to really capture those women and create dialogue for the woman who's a sales rep who says, how do I talk to these men? How do I get them to trust me? How do I get them to buy from me and not from John? And it's just, I think it's awareness. It exists, and we would be fools if we didn't know that. But what kind of steps can we take to fulfill our destiny and our dreams, and that sort of thing? It's almost like there's like a good and bad, right? There's like the evil that's always like coming in and saying, no, you can't. And a lot of things that I'm seeing women do is they're competing with each other, right? There's only room for 2% of women at the top, so it's me, her, and her. I'm going to make sure I'm slaying my competition. It's not the right healthy way of thinking. So we're trying to take steps to like stomp that out. The other thing that I think is happening is, how do we get more women to the table? How do we get more faces? And sometimes what happens, and another reason why no is so critical in the women's organizations and amongst women, maybe there's 10 that like make it through. Well, what about the other 350,000 women that are doing really amazing things in our city? How about those? Like, what about those women? So our goal is really to like shine all women doing great stuff, and then really somehow figure out how to get these issues brought forth. We all know they exist, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting perspective. And what it makes me think too is, I mean, it really takes like the whole village to make change in the whole village. So, at some point, I feel like, we have to, like, as men and women, we have to come together and be like, okay, like,
Mhm.
this is important. It's very, very critical. And we have to just, I think awareness is a big part of it, of like, we have to recognize that this is happening and be like, hey,
Right.
this is super uncool. Um, so I guess where my question lies there is like, at what point does it go from, or at least, and I'm not sure if it ever does. I'm coming from a place of curiosity.
Mhm.
At what point does it come to men and women linking arms, and us all working together, and the collaboration, and the community, all, for everybody, like, how does that really play into your vision?
I don't have an answer for that actually, because I don't know what that looks like. We do celebrate the men who propel us forward. We're not a feminist group. We are certainly centered around the lift and rise. It's very fun because every time we go into a new market and bring out a new book and showcase these top women in the city, we have a launch party and we allow the women to bring a plus one, and they bring their partner most of the time, and or their male counterpart, or whatever. And so we always want to thank them for supporting us on our journey. But it's a very femme-centered group, so I don't know what it looks like at this point for us to link arms. I would love for that to happen. Um, but I don't have an answer for that yet.
So, this is something that I've gotten like many different answers on,
Hmm.
and I'm just, frankly, I'm confused at this point. But you mentioned how, like, you weren't a feminist group, and I'm not even really sure what that word entirely means anymore.
Right.
And I would love to get your thoughts and opinions on that, because, like, there's such a wide range of answers there. Like, I,
There is. I think that a lot of times when you're throwing these words around, it's to their own, each person's own interpretation. So, what does feminist look like? Um, I think of For me, that's very extreme. We only work with women. We only lift women. We only care about women. We hate men. We bash men. None of that happens. We refuse to work with a man. And in fact, there's actually funny that we're talking about this. There's a new rollout that we have within the No kind of lineup, that will bring the opportunity for men to collaborate with us through some of our public events and through our magazine that we have coming out. Um, but back to your question, what is feminism? I think it just depends on who you're talking to and the moment of time in which we're discussing it. When I say we're femme-centric, we care about our women. We care about our tribe. We're actively looking for ways to connect with each other. Um, and that doesn't mean that we hate men. This is just focused on women.
that makes a lot of sense, because, I think, for any movement, or for any cause, there's always going to be people who are like extremists, and,
Mhm.
in my opinion, going so far to, to one side, either being super super extreme about it, or the other side of just not caring at all. Like, neither of those are helpful to the cause, and in fact,
Right.
the extremists really hurt. I, like, for with Judaism, for example. I mean, there are a lot of Jews that, there's just controversy between Jews, and there's very extreme Jews, and there's very relaxed, so,
Right.
it doesn't, like, it's not always helpful, and in fact, a lot of the times the extremist side is very harmful. So, like, I guess what I'm asking is, like, what is that healthy, like, that healthy place of feminism, and to the point where, like, or the reason I'm asking is, like, because I do think the extremists hurt the cause. Like, they hurt
Mhm.
the greater good that we're all trying, or that at least I'm trying to get to also. So, like, what is that healthy medium, and how can we really identify it, and be like, okay, this is what the healthy version looks like. Let's do this. Let's get more of that.
I think it all goes like to dialogue and communication. What are the goals that we're looking to get out of this? And for us as women, I think I'm going to speak for like myself because I can't speak for those extreme people. But for us, we're looking to be heard. We're looking to be considered and regarded and respected equally. We're looking for men, since we're on this topic, men specifically to not consider us like, oh, she's a woman, she's weak. Oh, she's a mom, she needs to stay in the kitchen. There is still that happening while we've come a long way. And so I think for us, was it Ashley Judd or some celebrity recently was like, stop having sex with men, like just ban it, and I think that's extreme. I think there's better ways to communicate and convey like our desire to be equal and to be heard. And like in ways like with No in our group, linking arms to create a bigger voice, a happy, healthy voice, a productive voice, not an crazy extreme voice, will maybe create some kind of impact locally, globally, nationally, whatever. Do we believe in the women's marches that are happening? For sure. There's a lot of our women who attend them. There's a lot of women who are leading them up in various cities around the country. But it's all about like, hey, we're adults too. We're big kids too. Like, let's get to the table and let's talk about some things. And, let's hope for a better way. So we're not banning sex in our group. We're not calling like crazy actions of like, you have to remove all the men in your life or anything like that. I think that's the extreme side. And I think that really hurts the cause, like you said, because you're so skewed one way that you can't even see any other perspective, but just that one.
Yeah, it's almost like polarizing in a way,
Yeah.
and it's like I actually think that particular statement is, not really the best for humanity. I mean, I'm sure I'm sure there are other ways, but it seems like that's like a main, biological function of humanity,
Right.
how we progress as like a species. So that doesn't seem very, very productive. But yeah, no, it's just so fascinating to me to learn everybody's perspective on really important things like this because um, I think the more that, like you said, like the more that the healthy and very clear voice of like, this is what this is what is needed, or this is what we want, this is what we need, this is what should, like, this is the best thing that can be for everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
like the more of that that enters the dialogue, I agree with you. I think it'll be better. I think it'll be way better.
And a couple of the other things that we're really focused on here at No is there's the greater like care for women, but we're also really, really honing in on diversity amongst women, getting women of color to the table, expanding what that looks like, and talking about some of those issues about diversity. What is diversity? Is it just women of color? No, it's religion. It's socioeconomic backgrounds, it's colors, and there's just so much that comes through diversity. So how do we lift women of color, women who are handicapped, women who come from different countries and things like that? How do we lift those women and help them rise so that they can get a seat at the table? And then even furthering that, our LGBT, TQ community, and we have a really great partnership here locally with the Mercury, the Phoenix Mercury, which is our WNBA team. How do we link arms with big organizations like the WNBA to say, you know what, it's okay if you are gay, lesbian, trans, we promote equality for all. We just happen to be women doing it.
That's a fascinating take on it. That's fascinating. So when it comes to and I'm really glad you brought up diversity because I think it's tremendously important. And I feel very grateful that, growing up, I was able to be in a high school. It was a public high school, And
Mhm.
so there was just a whole bunch of different people there. And I grew up in New Orleans, so there's a whole bunch of people
Oh, yeah.
there. So it was a
Mhm.
really
Lots of
interesting experience.
cultures and mhm.
It was really, really interesting. And so, when it comes to this whole mix of different cultures and different people, I feel like there are some places in the world where, I mean, it is like, and this is the reality of it, it's just very anti-women, and it is just very unfriendly towards women, and I mean, almost to the point of like hundreds of years ago in the United States,
Yeah.
still around the world
You're
that
right.
exists, and which is that's crazy to me. But like, so does it make does it make more sense to like go and try to fix that, or try to progress that, or to work in the United States, or to do everything, like what's the strategy, what's the thinking, what's the vision there?
That's a really good question because this is something again that we're really diving into now. What I believe in, even as a founder creator of this, is that I am not no. And no is not me. And it's not me and like five of my girlfriends. And, so we have really leaned into our women who are kind of helping us define that. And what I will say is, I believe in some global initiatives, and it's going to come within the next probably 24 months. I have a plan I'm not ready to unveil yet, but I have a plan to create some. I keep using the word clout because there are some big things that No will be doing on a global front. I think it's true. Like I keep saying, also linking arms. But when we come together to collaborate, like a lot can happen, and I think a lot will happen globally. But one of the things that we have to do as citizens is look in our own backyards. What is happening here locally that we can quickly impact change, that we can make some strides for? And that's why we're linking up with some of those grassroots agencies. Not that those national and world organizations don't need our support, because they do, but what we want to do is we want to give shine to the people who are getting started. An example of that is with our No Cares program, we have a woman named Demetra, and she has created this organization called Go with the Flow. It's here, it's Phoenix based, but what she does is she creates period packs, and she takes these packs that are like they're like in a bag, and then she delivers them to schools. She delivers them to like teen organizations. She delivers them to all of these places so that no girl has to go without a pad or without a tampon. It's like small things like that, because these things are happening in our backyard. They're happening globally. There are a lot of countries that are completely against women and women's rights, and almost virtually the ability to breathe or whatever. But these things are happening too here locally. There are women, kids who have no knowledge of what a period is, what happens, what do I do, no education around that. There are kids here who don't have access to feminine products, either by way of the community that they live in or the money that they have. So those are the things that I think we want to tackle, things both locally and globally. I think globally it's going to come as we're like building and building momentum, but we have to look at our backyard. We have to look at what's happening right here, right now, right around us.
So it seems like start local, and then build the momentum, build it, and then let it overflow into everywhere else.
I would say that's probably what we're doing. So the way Noke was created was it was really created as a passion project, right? So I had a little extra time in my day, and as a high performing woman, I don't take just vacations. I don't get naps and things like that. So a little extra time, little opening space. Let's find something else to do. And I said, what a great opportunity it is. The time is just right. Let's figure out how to like bring more women to the table. And we did that through our book. And then we're like, we have some really amazing women here. Let's build community around them. And from that community and the launch of that first publication and our tribe, people from around the country were like, what is this? How do I get this in my city? And so we very quickly shifted from fun passion project that may continue or may not continue to full blown, okay, let's figure out how to get this into every major city in the United States, or every minor city and everywhere. Let's just get it out there in the United States and Canada. So a lot of these things are really, we grew so fast because women need this and want this, that now we're like, okay, wait, what now? Like, let's talk about what this means, because we're getting so much expansion and impact that it's important that we start outlining what our principles are and what we stand for.
That's awesome. So I'm really curious, but what do the words on your arm mean?
Oh, saved by grace.
Well,
So it's about the journey, right? The journey of knowing that you along the way have received grace, maybe even sometimes when you didn't deserve it. And it's a reminder to others too that you should give grace, maybe when they don't deserve it. So it's all about the grace movement of, and it kind of ties into the whole lift and rise thing too. But we have to be gracious in every situation in our lives.
what's the story behind that? Why'd you choose to get so inspired to take that kind of
Actually
action?
put that on my arm.
Yeah.
The placement was intentional. Everything was super intentional too. So I placed it here on my arm because it's a conversation starter. See, you noticed it and you want to talk about this. The other reason I placed it on my arm is because it's right here and I see it all the time, and it prompts me every time I look at it to do a self-check. So, being a 30 something, I was living in Charlotte prior to living in Phoenix, and I kind of went through this period of like self-actualization. Who am I? What do I stand for? What is Sarah going to do? Like, what's my gift to this world? What's my legacy? And, I think too, like if you're spiritually aware, like it's more than just me. I have a sphere of people that I influence daily, whether it's your kids, your husband, your wife, your friends, your schoolmates, whoever. What does that look like? And what am I doing? And so I kind of went through this journey of trying to really just figure it out. How am I secure with who I am? What does confidence look like versus ego? Because sometimes it gets misconstrued. Am I really confident and secure in who Sarah is? What is Sarah? Who is Sarah? And so anyway, I went through this like 2-year journey of just like immersing myself into spirituality and depth and universe and all of those woo-woo things, right? And at the end, I came up with grace, because grace is really everything. Forgiveness, grace is acceptance. Grace is seeing you for who you are and being okay with that. So that's sort of how it happened. And it's in Hebrew. And it's in Hebrew because that was the original language the Bible was written in. And I wanted to bring it way back because our principles say that we should give grace, and we should be filled with grace, and we should carry grace, and we should deliver grace. It's a little
So
philosophical and deep.
I love that kind of stuff, and I want to just jump headfirst into it. I believe I heard you say you went on this entire journey, and through that journey you came to grace. Okay. There's no way I cannot ask what was the path? Like, where did that journey actually take you? I know it's a huge question, but I
It
mean, I'm
is.
so fascinated.
You're leaving me in a vulnerable state here to share some pretty personal things. But, like I mentioned, I was a 10-year business owner, and I started my company at 26 years old. And I think when you get instant success, you get to this place where and you're in your young 20s, you know, you will start feeling yourself and you're like, oh, I am the best. I am everything. I can do this. I'm conquering the world. It's almost like the millennial mindset that happens without this success. And it's like, you know what? You start getting kind of knocked off your rocker a little bit. Like, wait, oh, maybe I am not that great. Maybe, maybe I'm not invisible. Like, maybe I should like watch what I say, and maybe I should be kind. And customer service is everything. No matter what I say, customer services needs to be reignited tremendously because it is really everything. But so it was just sort of this like, wait, who am I? What do I stand for? What does success look like? Is it money in the bank? If you asked me now, I would say no. If you asked me before, I'd probably say hell yeah, you know. But I think as we mature as adults and we go through various experiences, and we learn to humble ourselves, and humility and grace really go hand in hand. So if there was a time in my life in young business ownership that I thought I was on the top of the world and no one could touch me, and I made my own way. And there's like a really cool energy about that, right? Like there is some beauty in feeling like you are slaying and you are killing like the world and doing all of these great things. But there comes a point in time where the materialistic things don't serve you any longer, and you have to look deeper.
And what was that pivotal moment for you?
I don't know that if there was like really a pivotal moment. I think it was more about who are the people I want to align with? Who are the people that I want to, you know, center myself around? Are there people in my life that maybe aren't serving me in the way that I'm serving them? I mean, I think it was just sort of like this, I can't really define the moment. I think it was this like process of like, wait, like, is this what I want to do? Is this what I want to be? Is there more? I think it was just this like inquisitive nature about the time being in your late 20s and early 30s.
And do you think that you had to have gone through that? Because it seems like there was probably some pain that went through with that transformation. Do you,
Absolutely. I think this is a journey that every person has to face to be able to get to spiritual maturity and to get to high emotional intelligence, right? We talk a lot about EI all the time. Everyone's like, oh, emotional intelligence and being mature and no drama, no gossip. There is no way No would flourish in the way it has, or other company would flourish in the way it has without a strong leader. And leadership is like an acquired skill. I don't believe in natural born leaders. I don't think you come out of the womb and you have to like hone in on those skills, and you have to really know who you are to be an effective leader. And I think you really have to decide that it's more than you to be a leader. So it's sort of like just this nurturing of who you are. But yeah, I think everyone needs to go through some sort of spiritual journey to arrive at the other end.
do you think that like could would there not be a way to like have these realizations and figure that out without having to go through the pain? Like, is there a way to like not shortcut it, but like,
No.
you need to get on these steps, like there are these stepping stones that you have to step on, but maybe you don't need to fall into the pit of lava and like have to dig yourself out. You know what I mean? Like, is there a way to just
I
pinpoint
don't think
exactly?
so. I don't think you could read a book and without going I think you have to go through it. Like I think that to get to the other side of being whole and complete, and being willing to like truly serve others without expectation, you have to like go through it. There is a journey that we have to encounter. throughout our entire lives. It's that level up, right? You can't just level up and say, okay, I'm going to level up now. It doesn't work that way. Oh, you read a book, I'm leveling up. It doesn't work that way. Like, you have to go through this life and these experiences to know what you're for and what you're against, to know if you're in alignment or not in alignment. I think you have to like live it out. And sometimes you're in the wilderness and it sucks, but it is what it is. And you just have to know that, one, I don't want to be here and I'm not going to stay here. Two, I'm going to take steps to figure out how the hell to get out of this. And three, I'm going to learn for it so I never, or learn from it so I never get back there. And I'm going to be a better person for it.
Now that you've done all of this work and
Yeah.
you have arrived at the place where you are, what truths do you hold now that you think you won't hold in the next 10 years?
Man, these are some deep questions. I would say I am enough. I am enough. When we fully accept ourselves for being enough, everything around us changes. The relationships we have, the expectations we have, the communication dialogue we have with others, all of these things go out the window. So when you say, I am 100% today, I'm 100% tomorrow, I encompass everything that I am supposed to have to fulfill my journey on earth, then it makes life easier. You find freedom, you find satisfaction, you stop caring about stuff that doesn't matter, or maybe did matter at one point, but it doesn't really matter anymore. And you're really able to be free enough to find your path to ease, right? So that's the truth. And I think that's the part that we have to like get to. So if we can get to that place where we fully accept ourselves, and I don't know that you will ever like, okay, today I fully accept myself and that's it. I always fully accept myself forever. No, there's still things where we have to do self-checks and we say, wait, let's back up. Let's analyze this and continue to do the work. So there was never an end to this. It's always going. It never stops. But I think if you can get to a place where you say, whatever happened yesterday, whether it was in my childhood, whether it was through a bad relationship, whether it was through your own bad decisions or whatever the case, if you can get to a place where you can let that go and say, I fully accept myself for who I am and I am good enough, then you can conquer the world. You can do anything.
I think so too. I think so too.
So how do you get there? It's an individual journey for everybody.
Well, I also think conversations like these are very helpful because, I'm sure without a shadow of a doubt that there are people out there right now who are listening or watching, and whenever you may be listening or watching, whether it's in 2019 or 3019 or
Mm-hmm.
whenever, um, who are going through that, and they might hear the things that you're saying and be like, oh wow, I am literally feeling this pain right now and I don't know why I'm feeling this pain, or I didn't know why I was feeling this pain yesterday, but now it makes so much sense. Like, I'm in the process of leveling up, in the process of evolving, and like, I think that could be so tremendously helpful because then you can own it. You can own that process and be like, all
Right.
right, bring it, let's do it, let's level up. But I'm curious because I feel like every single day I change and I know that I evolve and grow every
Mm-hmm.
day. I'm never the same person from day to day, which is exciting. Um, but that also makes me think, okay, well, I I don't think I'm wrong about things right now. Like, if you were to ask me, Ben,
Mm-hmm. Right.
what are you wrong about? I mean, I don't know. If I thought I was wrong, I wouldn't be thinking that thing. So I'm
Right.
curious. I'm curious to think, like, if you had to challenge your own thinking right now and be like, okay, these are the things that I hold true today. In 10 years, which of those things do you think is going to be the most likely to not be the case?
I don't know. Um, because I think if we knew, then they wouldn't be true today to us, right? So I think if we're like, I'm living my truth today, and of what I believe. And I think you're absolutely right. We're always evolving, and through experiences and through education and learnings and all this, it shifts and it changes, and that's okay. Um, I mean, think back to your 18-year-old self or your 16-year-old self. Gosh, you just thought, I mean, I don't know about you, but I thought I knew everything. And then you go back and you're like, wow, I knew nothing. Um, I think just being open to knowing that things are going to shift and they are going to change and you are going to evolve is enough. And again, that's where this comes into play. Grace.
Well, I know, like, when I'm thinking back to my 16-year-old self, I just wish that I had more consciousness of other people. I really wish I was more conscious of other people, because there were a lot of times where I thought a certain thing and I thought they thought a certain thing, but they weren't thinking that. I only thought that they were thinking that. And I know that's a
Yeah.
random thing, but it's like, I think the awareness is so critical of like being not only aware of yourself and like recognizing these things that are happening and these changes, but also being aware of like of other people,
Yeah.
because it's so
Well, that's a
important.
lesson for today too, right? I mean, people are going through that now at 50 years old, 60 years old.
Oh,
I do
it's
believe
fascinating.
too, there's seasons for growth and there's seasons for work and development, and just being aware of like where you are and what's happening right now with you, and then just like going with it. I think so many people want to go against like the sail, like against the tides. I mean, just being open is really a big piece of it, and the awareness, being aware of what's happening. And when you know, goes back to the whole part, when you know you are enough, like I am 100%, what somebody says to you isn't so offensive anymore.
Yeah, you can just brush that off. Like, nope,
Yeah,
that doesn't bother me.
it doesn't bother me. And actually, let's talk about that. What's happening? Why are, like, what's going on? Did I say something to hurt your feelings? Instead of like, I would never hurt your feelings. I would never say that. I would never, you know what I mean? Like, we relinquish that when we know who we are and we accept ourselves. We also can accept ourselves for our flaws too.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And there was a gentleman by the name of Les Brown, and I love to read. Like I read all the time, and I was listening to one of his audiobooks, and there was just one line that just it was awesome. And he said something to the effect of, regardless of where you are in your journey or what you're doing, it's okay to give yourself a break and to
Mhm.
recognize that like you're trying your best, and like it's gonna be okay. And it because like I'm definitely like my biggest critic. Like I'm always trying to like do better and get better and be
Right.
better, and like voracious hunger. But like when he was saying that, I was like, you know what, man, like you're doing good. Like you got it.
Yeah,
It's okay. So
it's
but
okay.
I think it's so important for people, because I feel like so many people are like they are so driven and they're so critical of themselves, and it's like it's healthy to be to like push yourself, but I
Yeah.
think to the point of like where it's almost like you're tearing yourself down. Like that's not healthy. That's like overboard
Yeah.
too much.
Well, and like, so one of this new thing is like, right, so how do we fully accept ourselves, and how do we get to realize that we are number one, start looking at your actions. Maybe like you're like, I'm good. I'm totally fine. I love myself. I self-care Sunday. I get massages, and I do self-actualizations and self-affirmations. But one of the things that someone said to me, it's very interesting. Why are you working so hard? Like, what does this like put it to the man thing mean? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you out there trying to prove? Why are you trying to work so hard? Like competitive people, right? Like who are you competing against? Why are you competing? Um, is it that you're like in a real competition that you have to like compete to like succeed and be the winner? And like we get that, right? So there's times for that. But why are you what are you trying to prove? You're trying to prove it to somebody else. And if you're trying to prove it to somebody else, it all circles back to you. Why do you feel like you have to prove how good you are to someone else? Because you're already enough. You're already 100%. What if you accepted that and you like it's that mindset, right? You shifted the mindset and you said, like, I'm here to empower women to be better and to lift each other and to rise each other. I'm not here to go and like go across the country and get as many women into my tribe so I can, so I feel really good about my numbers and I feel like I've done a good solid day's worth of work. No, it's like I take the pressure off of myself, and I just do.
So are you a naturally competitive person?
Um, there was like times when if anybody ever said, "Oh, you that's not gonna happen," I'm like, wait and watch. You know, oh, I don't think you can do that. Really? I can't? You know what I mean? Like, and it's so, yeah, I guess I am when you think about it like that. I, but in a philosophical, like internal looking self, why do we have to prove that? Because I'm competitive, probably, but keeping in mind, I'm already enough. You're already enough.
Well, the reason I ask it is because I'm one of the most competitive people on the planet, if not the most competitive. And like that,
Funny.
like I just have this drive to win, and like I know that like it leads me to some ridiculousness from time to time,
Right?
and
Mhm.
like sometimes it ends up not being good, but it's like there's just this innate sense of like I have this inner craving to win. Like I want to freaking win. I want to be the best, and I can't explain it. I don't know why, but like,
But listen to what you said. And what if you already knew you were the winner? Like you were already enough. Like you were already 100. Like you already won the race. You already got there. You're already there. Like you have everything it takes to like win. It that kind of takes the pressure off a little bit, right?
yeah, well,
Perspective.
yeah, I definitely think it does. I definitely think it does. And I'm just saying, like, as somebody who is ridiculously competitive, like, I think it's almost more important to like recognize that and to not beat yourself up over it because I mean, you know, to like working against yourself is that's one of the most frustrating things on the planet. It really is. Really, really
And do
is.
you have to win? Like, right? Because really highly competitive people have to win. They make sure that they like win. That's me, right? So that was a big part of me. Like, I have to do it. I will do it. I will never sleep. I will, until my feet are bloody, I will do it. Um, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I think it's good to have the conversation and ask the questions because say, maybe somebody does know, or maybe it's something we have to ask ourselves and really come to grips with in our own lives.
Right. And what does at all costs mean? At the detriment of what? I think that's the shift, right? So I really want to be powerful and successful, and I want to, whatever success looks like to you. I want to make money. I want a legacy. I want people to know who I am. I want to be known for something really amazing, whatever that looks like. But at what cost? Is that like to other people's detriment because you're so competitive that you're off proving that you're so good that you run over everybody? You would like tear down other people? So I think that there's all these like self checks that we have to do as adults, especially in our businesses, especially in our entrepreneurial journey, um, and throughout the journey, right? Like as you level up each time, it's time for self check. Where am I? What do I stand for? Have things shifted? Have things changed? Maybe there are some truths that I've learned that I need to like adjust and pivot because I love the power of a pivot.
That's awesome. Well, Sarah, I want to be so respectful of your time, uh,
Yes.
and and I'm very grateful for the time that we have been able to share. It's been very special. So I want to say thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I just have one more question for you, then we'll wrap it on up.
Sure.
Um, but I'm 24, and the
Okay.
reason that I say that is because I want to ask from like specifically my perspective. But what question should I be asking you that I just wouldn't think to ask?
I loved when you opened up with what's your story because that allows you to go in so many different directions. Um, I think one of the questions that I ask is, why are you here? Why? I just met with someone right before our podcast, and she said, I want to be a photographer for the next Phoenix edition notebook. And I said, why? Because when you ask those questions, it allows you to show your heart.
Can you answer that question for me?
Okay, why am I here?
Hmm.
Why am I here on this podcast? Or why am I here in this world? Because we get going.
I
Why am I here? I'm here
think the
to
bigger one. Mhm.
a bigger. Um, I'm here to disrupt things, to question things, and to be open to other people, I think, right? The experience. So I'm here to break the norm and to say that whatever that looks like, we're going to do amazing things. So why am I here? I'm here to support women and help them grow and to make change, whatever that looks like.
That's awesome. Well, again, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the show, and to everybody who's watching and listening. I want to thank y'all like a whole lotsies for being on the show and for sticking with us till all the way till the end. Your time is very valuable too, so I'm very grateful that y'all would share it with us. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I love
Thank
you
you.
all, and I will see y'all on the next episode. Take care now.